Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. I'm having some issues on my other machine, so I had to do this from my phone today, but I wanted to wish you all a happy International Women's Day to any women in the world, where we're celebrating the achievements of women, but also looking at the challenges we face to eliminate gender bias, gender discrimination, gender violence, and also focusing on gender parity and equal pay. And want to wish and thank all the women out there. And speaking of women, we remember seeing Kamala Harris yesterday, the vice president, standing alongside Joe Biden, the president. And today I want to open up. I'm only here for a few minutes because I got to solve my computer issues today. But we have the State of the Union yesterday. A fiery Joe Biden who delivered one of the best State of the Unions probably in his career in the presidency. For this is his fourth one. The president came on almost like a campaign speech, energetic, engaged, a few stumbles, but very, very, very energetic, talking about our commitment to democracy in Ukraine. He committed an emergency response force to Israel and Gaza, and he called out his predecessor, not by name, and the fact that his ideas were old. And even though he was old, his ideas were young. That was a great way for the president to end. He thanked and blamed the United States Congress. He thanked his Democrats for supporting him on his immigration reform bill, but he called out the Republicans there and also withstood some heckling that they did not support immigration reform. But he asked them to do so, and he said it was the right thing. This really sounded more like a campaign speech, but I do think it was a big night for the president. I haven't reviewed what his poll numbers are yet, but I do think that it's time to look at the fact that maybe this scrappy guy from Scranton has enough fight in him to win back the presidency. If the Joe Biden that showed up last night shows up on the campaign trail, I think it could be a very, very different story for Donald Trump. Trump is leading in the polls, and he would only have to win 2 states to win back the presidency. Of course, I think the president's shift on his strategy to Israel war could help him with Muslim Americans in these swing states like Michigan. Of course, he'd have to win Nevada. We're watching closely what's going to happen in North Carolina. But I tell you, yesterday, Joe Biden did seem to me to be behaving and acting like the commander in chief. I think the American people were quite surprised. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about the Republican response from the United States Senator Katie Britt, the youngest United States Senator in the United States Senate from the great state of Alabama. We're going to go ahead and get started. Fiery day in Joe Biden, State of the Union, and we look forward to talking about it real quickly.
I'm glad you're here. Rick Rosner is here as well. We'll see if anybody else pops in also into the conversation. One of the things that I was curious about, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this as well as Rick, is that he did try to frame the victories that were going on in the sense of the economics. And I do know that sometimes people
the
are
economy,
looking.
the economy, exactly. I forgot to mention that.
So I look at the Vegas odds, and after last night's speech of Biden's odds, the payoff you get if you bet on him went down. So in the past, I don't know, month or so, Biden's odds, according to Vegas, have gone from 30% to 40%. Trump's odds are moving in the other direction, moving from a 60% chance of getting the presidency again to 50%. So there's a trend there.
There's definitely a trend there. We'll see what happens. I know that Steve was trying to get his computer issues aligned and everything. But like I said, I did hear him talking about job growth, the low unemployment rate. But then I know that even in Congressman Britt's response, she was talking about that's not what people see when they go to the grocery store or when they go to some of the other things on a day-to-day basis. So I just wonder how much of this economy is going to be an issue, and is he going to be able to frame it in a victorious sense? Because a lot of people are looking
This morning, they said the economy added another 275,000 jobs last month. Unemployment went up just a little bit to 3.9, which is the 25th consecutive month it's been under 4%, which hasn't been that low in 60 years. So yeah, they're going to be able to keep making arguments about the economy. And if the Fed, the Fed's supposed to lower interest rates at some point, I don't know, in May.
Yeah.
which will help the economy.
Yeah. Steve, if you can hear us, that's the question I was asking was the notion of he definitely played up the economy, played it up big time and everything. But even Katie Britt's response was that that's not the economy that we see because our food prices are up high, our gas prices are up and all along those lines. So I just wondering, will we see a significant betterment of the economy? And if we see a betterment of the economy, how will that play into the conversation, the political conversation? And I agree with you that that was one of the scrappiest moments that I had seen with President Biden, even though there are some Republicans that are getting on his case because apparently he mistakes the name Laken Riley for Lincoln Riley, and now they're saying that that's
well, I think that he did make a good case for it. I gotta go charge my phone, guys. I'm having one of those technically challenged days, but I do think that he was able to talk about the infrastructure success, unemployment being lower than it's ever been. I think 15 million new jobs. If you look at North Carolina, unemployment under 3.5%. We've created hundreds of thousands of jobs, about 100,000 from the Inflation Reduction Act. He didn't really talk about broadband access, but I do think it's important to look at North Carolina as a case study that we have 882,000 more households with broadband access, implementation of the BEAD Act, which is providing small businesses, and of course his recent announcement of 82 million. That's going to add another 16 million of households. So, Mark, I think there was a good case that Bidenomics is working. That I think a quick reminder that we often forget that when this president was elected, we weren't really having a successful COVID strategy, and he did get America back on track and isn't really given enough credit for that. So I don't know. I mean, Katie Britt is very articulate, a very smart lady, but I could not stay awake during her remarks. I don't know whether I was tired or not, but that's always a sign for me that a politician, I don't know what you all thought of her. I think she was a little bit over the top. I don't know. I mean,
let me say, Katie Britt felt like I was watching Get Out and I was going to die. That's what it felt like. And even worse, why place her in a kitchen? Why have her do her speech from a kitchen? Why not have her at a podium? Why not have something else? But have a woman giving a speech from a kitchen was very condescending. And then on top of that, it really did sound like she was speaking from the set of Get Out and she's ready to kill somebody. It just was very creepy.
Terrible reviews all across the board. Even Republicans said she did a bad job, saying it was as bad as maybe the worst Republican response in history.
Yeah.
That she did fake tears. Her emotions were way over the top. And it's just it's more Republican ineptitude, which, I mean, as a liberal, that makes me more optimistic.
Hey, to Toby, along those same lines, though, it seems like she was trying to play to some degree, and I did watch her responses. Like I watched the entirety of the president's speech, and like I said, I thought it was a great speech and everything. But do you think he was trying to? They, meaning the Republicans, were trying to play toward that women base and to those folks that are on the Haley side? Because it does seem like that whole notion of, and I alluded to that earlier, that she was talking about how this is not the America and the economy that I am seeing when I'm going to my grocery store. And she tried to use that folksy homespun kind of conversation about what had happened when she had talked to her neighbors and all along those lines. So she was trying to be folksy, and I don't know that it was effective.
Again, don't try and pander to women by putting a woman in a kitchen trying to sound folksy and homely, and I'm a mama, and that's what I'm a mother, and that's my number one job. Okay, so you're saying the GOP just wants to put women back in the kitchen? That's all you're saying to me.
Yeah,
so it was horrible.
Now, one of the things I've been seeing from the Republican camp and everything, and I was wondering, I kind of alluded to it earlier, because they jumped all down. Well, one, Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of tried to commandeer that one moment by asking President Biden to say Laken Riley's name, and apparently he flubbed it by saying Lincoln Riley. And of course, the Republicans are getting all on this case. But a lot of people are saying, look, it was a name, it was a moment of impromptu, and he did do it on the cuff and everything. But I just wanted y'all's take on that and whether that is going to.
Well, I mean, the Republicans are always looking for anything they can jump on. Last night, Hannity said that Biden was he talked too fast and he was too yelly. Which is the opposite of what they've been going after Biden for, Sleepy Joe. So, they'll try do anything they can to, mischaracterize his speech. And Biden didn't give him much. So he said Lincoln, it sounded like Lincoln. So is that, who cares?
He talked about the situation and addressed the situation. If you're complaining about a name, heck, I should be mad at every single person who tries to pronounce my name because it gets butchered every time. Laken and Lincoln sound just alike for many people.
His stutter starts coming back a little bit. He stumbles in a few words, but all in all, there were no gaffes. He was engaged for the entire 65 minutes. I think he ended strong with, kind of like, I thought he delivered really well when he said, I often forget, he was the youngest senator in the United States Senate, elected at the age of 29. I got really inspired the fact that he was a city councilman. So I said, don't count me out yet. I mean, I'm even though I'm going to run for another office in 2 years, but the funny thing is that he said, I love how he ended. He said, he brought up the age, but I think he just nailed it. I mean, he was like, I may be old, but my ideas are not old, right?
Yeah.
So he owned it. He owned it. And I think that might have been a game changer because now he really looked for 65 minutes like the president of the United States. I mean, really, honestly, right? He really came across serious. He was, I don't know, I want to get Sasha Starr's opinion, but I think this was a big night for Joe Biden. Sasha, what do you think?
I think that Biden showed yesterday that he is an outstanding president of the United States. His speech is second to none. Nobody in history of the United States can come even close to speech that Biden delivered yesterday.
Yeah, it really was.
Talk about him being old and mincing the words, and he cannot walk and he cannot do anything. Maybe that he can't even prepare omelet, or he cannot do many things. But you know what? It's all garbage. And yesterday he took incredible hit on all his predecessors, he told here the people, and all this criminal GOP party. And guess what? This criminal Supreme Court, they were sitting like little kids who make pee in their pants. They couldn't even get their eyes off the ground. And that was a most incredible moment.
But I want to get Nick Valdiva, but you know what? I think, Sasha, you're right. I mean, I think in this speech, experience does matter, right? I think the other thing politically, you got to give his advisors credit. Obviously, the border issue he still has to deal with. I know, but I think that's neutralizing the fact that he offered the bill and the Republicans aren't doing it. So I think he made it political. They did look stupid, like Lindsey Graham with that smug on his face, But I think the other thing is that the war in Israel. I kept waiting and waiting, but I think it was good he cracked at the end, and the emergency response relief to Gaza, I think is going to sort of, and asking for a ceasefire, I think is going to maybe counter that anti-Islamic Biden sentiment out there and help him in those swing states of Michigan. So I tell you, I think that, I'll end with this. I mean, I'm here for a few more minutes, but I love sporting analogies. I mean, if this was a boxing match, I think it's fair to say this round went to Scrappy Joe. A lot of jabs. Trump's in the corner going, what the hell? And if it was a football game, it was third and long. I think the Democrats just scored a first down and they're back in the game. I don't know, guys. I mean, it's
Yes, it's the most interesting thing that Trump can't even think of what to answer to Joe Biden's speech yesterday because he has a different problem. He has to deliver about $92 million for this, what's her name,
Well, I
judgment.
think
Eugene
that's a
Carroll.
big task. Yeah.
And it expires by Monday. He has to bring a cash. He has nothing else. And he has an advisor. So even David Johnson, who was here many times, he said that he doesn't have, never mind $500 million for New York judgment. He doesn't have $100 million for even this one. So let's see what his idiot who said that, look, we will have so many victories that you will get tired of winning. Hey, man, show me the money. Bring the money. Where are you?
Hey, hold on a second.
Trump
I have a
won.
question for Nick
Russia's
and
so
everything.
happy. I mean, everyone's happy. Anyway, wait,
Not so fast, my liberal panel friends.
No,
no,
but
no,
I have
but
a question.
was there anything Biden could have done better?
You're
I
the
know-
main
I know
liberal,
we're
Nick,
all-
yourself. So,
Come
okay.
on, my liberal panel friends. We know we're all drinking Kool-Aid today, but let's get real. He was running unopposed in this particular election. That being said, he actually did a good job, if you're objective. And here's the reason he did a good job. Number one, he never mentioned his opponent's name. He always said my predecessor. That is good. Don't mention his name. Here's the other reason he did good.
It's like Voldemort. It's like Voldemort.
Yeah. First of all,
man-
don't say the unthinkable word of DT. Just leave DT out of the picture. That was good. I was very impressed. Number two, he didn't stumble and fall. One of the big things you do when you lose is you make a mistake. As a matter of fact, Sasha, when I was playing chess, I realized that I didn't have to play brilliantly. I just had to wait till my idiot opponent made a mistake. As long as you don't make a mistake, you win.
That's true.
Well, the thing is, he didn't make a mistake. And so that was brilliant, too, on his case. And he didn't seem like the old man that they're portraying him to be. He did look old, but he didn't project that. So all in all, he actually did a really, really good job.
Hey,
What
Nick.
is how partisan this country is. The Republicans will not, they won't accept that. And frankly, the Democrats are the same way. In other words, there is no there's no objectivity in this country. I mean, objectivity got thrown out the door. But if you're objective, he did a good job.
Hey, but Nick, along those same lines, one of the things that I thought he did brilliantly, and it is a tactic that some people use, particularly in debates and everything, which is he kind of countered the notion of what Donald Trump has been going on, and even Sasha has alluded to it a couple of times, because one of former President Trump's great statements that he makes all the time is "Make America Great Again." And what basically President Biden did is he paused and he said, wait a minute, you're saying "Make America Great Again." Isn't America already great? So he basically countered that response by saying that we are already great, and these are some of the ways that we are great. So he kind of took that slogan and basically reversed the slogan in what I saw in the context of the speech.
Two more instances of Trump's ineptitude. Trump tried to live fact check the Biden speech, apparently on Truth Social. Apparently that didn't go well. That
Play-by-play,
there were glitches. And Trump yesterday lost again, this time in British court. He has to pay about $400,000 worth of the other side's court costs. He sued Christopher Steele over the Russia dossier document for, I guess, defamation. And the court threw it out for being a frivolous lawsuit, assigned court costs, because that wasn't intended to be a public document. And
It was
But
only
anyway,
400,000.
we were talking about pathetic all-time loser in all his financial dealings, in all his business dealings, in politics,
That is
in
not true.
anything. Whatever he's touching, it's a loser. He lost 6 casinos. It's a cash positive business. You cannot go bankrupt with casinos unless you are Donald Trump. Number one. Number two, lost elections, lost Senate, lost House, lost impeachments, everything, whatever. Look, his Trump University, is a Trump airline, anything that he's touching, it's a loser. He's surviving on Arab and Russian mafia money. That's all there is to it. And he will lose even that. And then hopefully one of the Russian mafias will come and finish him off.
Hey,
See, that's
Sasha,
absolutely not true. He won the
It is.
presidency. He was very successful on Apprentice. He was very
Absolutely not.
successful on
He was not
Celebrity
successful at
Apprentice.
anything.
You know, so
He-
to just
He
classify
never
him as
worked
an overall
in his
loser
life.
is
He
just
just
not
that's
a-
the way
But I
they're
think, but guys, I gotta
You know,
leave.
you're
I've gotta
just
leave in
drinking
5
Canadian
nothing
Kool-Aid.
at the
I have
best.
to leave
Talking
in
Canadian
But
Kool-Aid.
now show me the money. Okay, you're wealthy, you're great, you're successful.
Yeah.
Money. Bring me the money.
but I'll leave with this. I
Yeah,
have
go
to
ahead.
leave in 5 minutes. But what I will say is this: the other thing that we were wondering is, I think if Biden can take the same message in person around the country, that's the only concern. Is the last time he won, it was a COVID campaign where most of it was on Zoom. This is going to really hit the eye gear. So that's still a concern. Is at 83, is he going to be able to have that kind of energy that he had? Because he still walks a little slow, takes his time. But if he can take his vitamins, get his health checks, and do it, but I think that that's one thing. I hope he's sleeping and exercising and getting the rest that he needs. And of course, they're leveraging Kamala to get out there more on her reproductive rights tour, her small business tours that she's doing. But I think these are important factors. But I'll be back
He's
on
81,
Monday.
right? He doesn't turn 82 until November.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, but
Hey,
his biggest
just
supporter is
really
Kamala
quickly,
Harris.
yeah,
His
just
biggest
really
supporter is
quickly.
Kamala Harris because Kamala was clapping because he goes, if Joe gets elected, there is a chance that he dies and I become the first woman black president. I become president of the United States. And so, and she's right. She actually has a chance. Other than that, I don't think she has any chance.
Except
She
that
does
she's not black.
I thought she was.
Well,
she's
she's
She's a
she's
mixture.
part Indian.
I thought
She's
she was a mixture. She's black, Indian. She's
part
like
Asian.
her-
She's part
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
a
you know.
mature. She did pledge to one of the bigger African American sororities, so she does have a strong African American base in
Yeah, but
that
she has a
sense.
chance to be president. She has a chance to be president. There's absolutely no question
Agreed.
that Joe Biden could die or he resigns his office.
Hey,
and-
Nick, along those same lines, and this is the question
She's
I have for
clapping
you.
all the time, baby. Go Joe, go Joe, go Joe.
But Nick, this is the question I have for you and Sasha, and if Steve's able to stick around. One of the things that he did, and I alluded to it earlier, was that he definitely went after the folks that are wealthy. He talked about some of the things he wanted to do in terms of the ways that they will have to pay and pay a more significant rate. And he also went after big pharma, and he also went after even some of the packaging, because he made a good kind of funny joke about how if you getting Snickers and you're getting potato chips, you're getting less than you used to get, because a lot of it is made of air and everything. So he did talk about some of the things that he was going to do in some of those issues as well. But I just wanted y'all's take on this kind of move toward trying to make sure that the wealthy are paying, quote unquote, their fair share.
I think he's going to need to have some congressional support to do that. Listen, they have created so many, I'm not going to say loopholes, but tax advantage strategies for wealthy people. And you don't have to be a billionaire. You can be worth 10 million, 20 million to take advantage of. One of them was done by Trump, the opportunity zones that are out there. I mean, it's unbelievable. Most poor people don't even know they exist, but it's a way you can completely eliminate your taxes on capital gains. It was signed by the Trump administration. It's used as a strategy all over the country, so that if you have a stock in it, let's say NVIDIA, which Sasha's holding, right? And NVIDIA expanded in value. I know you do covered calls, but anyway, the thing is, expands in value. All of a sudden, you're worth 50 million. But the problem, if you sell it, you have to pay 20 million in capital gains taxes, income taxes. You can go to an opportunity zone and pay zero. Okay. Unless you get real and shut down these loopholes, forget it. This whole thing about taxes is wasted.
Nick, attention. Here's I'm going to tell you something which is better than any loophole anywhere found. Here's what I did about probably 20 minutes ago. Maybe
Guys, I got to run. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Stay for a second to learn something and make some money, okay? And very quickly. So what I did, I bought 200 shares of NVIDIA at $965.5, $965.71. Sorry, it's now. I bought it at 955.67. So I'm making a little bit of money here, but it doesn't matter. It's not why I told you about it. Because I sold 2 covered calls exactly December 20, 960. So that's about, it's whereabouts the stock is today. However, here is the premium unguarded for each call. $200. It means $20,000. Okay,
Pretty much.
one call. So what that means? What's my risk exposure? Nothing, because if even the Nvidia will go to $2,000 a share, I will deliver stock at 960, which I bought at 955. I'll make even a little bit of money on stock as well. But the main portion of my profit will be on these covered calls that I sold. This is absolutely incredible opportunities. It's there. All you have to do is, well, yeah, you need to have a little bit of money. But if you're using margin, it's not even that much.
It's interesting. I mean, well, it's always good to meet money. I also heard of a guy that bought a robot, AI robots, some program where the robots do the investing. So I don't know what, and now he's dating 4 times returns, but that was interesting. So I don't know. It was, I'm looking at how I can make more money, and I don't think I invest my money aggressively enough, Sasha. So I might need starting attending I apologize, I haven't been attending your show, but I think I might need to take some investing advice.
Steve, my record is 188% profit for the last 12 months. And this upcoming 12 months, it will be way much more. But
if I give you $10,000, can you help me grow that?
No, for $10,000 is too much trouble to exchange emails and provide my bank account.
Well, can you advise me? Can you advise me on how to reinvest $10,000?
10,000, not really. I don't know what you can do with 10,000. Okay, you buy 10 shares of Nvidia. I think that's all what you can do.
No, I just have some extra money to invest in rather than just sitting in a money market fund. So I got more money than that, but I just want to try to see if I can put it somewhere to get more of a return.
The minimum is in what I'm doing is $50,000. It's a bare minimum.
50,000. Okay.
50 grand could do something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair. I got that. Anyway, we'll talk about it next week, but have a great weekend, guys. And thank you for the State of the Union rapid fire. But I do think it was a good night for the president. And I'm going to look at the polls and see whether it pulled those numbers up at all. And
well, I can actually I'd actually pulled them earlier. The majority of Americans actually felt that the president did great in the response. The CNN flash poll found that more than 10 Americans who watched the speech had a positive reaction to the president's message, and the survey was conducted by a group called SSRS shortly after the address, and it definitely found that it was a strong amount of folks that were, like we've been saying here, found that it was a very effective speech. So among those who watched the speech, 64% said they had a positive reaction to Biden's message. 35% of those respondents said they had a very positive reaction, while 29% said they had a somewhat positive reaction. 35% of the viewers said they had a negative reaction to the address. And CNN noted that while Biden came away with a majority of viewers enjoying the speech, the number is still down from his previous addresses to the Congress and the American people. So last year, Biden hit a low with just 34% of viewers saying they reacted very positively to his 2023 State of the Union. And in 2022, 41% said the same. So it does look like he got a very good, as everybody here has said, bump in terms of his reaction and all along those lines. Hey, Nick, I just have to do something.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let's see, Steve, I do have to challenge you on something you said, because you talked about the enterprise zones and how Trump had been implemental in those enterprise zones. I'm not saying that he hasn't been, but there was another Republican president that was very much involved in enterprise zones, and that was way back in, I believe, the 70s. So Richard Nixon, and I think Jacoby can speak to this as well, had definitely talked about enterprise zones way before it became an idea around Trump and everything in that space. And that's actually one of the things that
enterprise zones have become tax havens and really haven't helped out the community as much as they were supposed to. So enterprise zones are these zones that were the Jared Kushner big push. They really haven't done anything or what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, they did do something, Jacoby. They got wealthy stock investors out of having to pay capital gains tax.
So how do you
Exactly.
use
They were
enterprise?
tax havens. They weren't actually doing anything for the community.
But see, that's the whole idea. You don't you understand? The whole idea is so you don't have to pay taxes. I don't know what's wrong with you. But
How do you use an enterprise
this
zone?
was done by your Californian Sean Parker, who decided that he would have to pay too much money on his Facebook stock. Since appreciated
And the original enterprise zone.
But what do you do? What do you do?
Okay,
in
here's
one of these?
what you do. Okay, they identify opportunity zones around the country. You can go look them up on the internet. You take your Facebook stock, you sell it for, let's say, $10 million, and your basis was like $1 million. So you had 9 million capital gains. You don't pay anything. Then you buy properties in these opportunity zones, hold them for 10 years, sell it, and you don't have to pay any taxes. You walk away tax-free. So what's wrong with that? It's great if you're a wealthy investor. All wealthy investors know it. We even have somebody on our network who specializes, he's a CPA, specializes in helping wealthy people not have to pay capital gains taxes on appreciation of stock. So the thing is, there's so many things out there for wealthy people. And that's one reason your friend Jeff Bezos, 2 years paid no income taxes when he's worth billions of dollars. That's the reason why Microsoft has, when I was there, had 400 tax attorneys doing what they call intercompany transfer tax exemptions under Section 482. So what happens is this: the wealthy people do have armies of tax attorneys to shield them from the taxes. So when Joe says, we're going to tax the rich, I go, great, how? The devil is in the details, and there was no details, and you're not going to see any details.
Hey,
It's
speaking
all
of details,
political fodder. It's all
speaking
political.
of details, and the original enterprise zones that I was referring to in terms of Nixon were actually designed to try to help certain minority communities be uplifted and all along those lines. So that was the original enterprise zones that Nixon had put out there. And yes, some of them became, as Jacoby alluded to, tax havens for others that were taking advantage of them and all in that space. Now, one of the things we've talked about before is this.
Real quick, Mark, just that idea. They were designed to, they were sold to. Trump used the same language that Nixon did when he tried to say about these opportunity zones. Trump said, yeah, they're going to help out minority communities. They're going to help out these. No, they weren't. They were designed really, just as Nick is talking about, to be tax shelters, to hide money. So that was their designation. They were just sold different.
That's
they
right.
were
I
just
mean,
sold differently.
the sale is we're going to help out minority community, but that's just the sale. So it's useful to have minority communities out there because you can say, well, we're here to help them, but they're not. They're just to design so that they would escape having to pay capital gains.
We've talked about Trump and the fact
And
that
that's
Trump.
where.
Sorry about that.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that's why Trump is actually using AI to put black people in pictures, and also he has the repeated talking point, which his fan base believes. He uses the repeated talking point that he gave more money to HBCUs than anybody else, which is untrue. He did not. He actually cut funding and then added funding back in. So he really didn't increase funding or anything. He legitimately kept funding roughly about the same, if not a little bit less than what Obama had. And actually Biden added more funding to HBCUs than any other president. But his fan base and the cult believe different.
And speaking of fan bases and everything, there was a gentleman that was in the audience because apparently he still has privileges, and even though he was expelled, it looks like he's going to be running again. So I just wanted our thoughts around George Santos because he was there in the room with the president and the rest of the members of Congress, and now he is filed to run for House again during the State of the Union. So he actually took the opportunity to say that he would run again. So maybe you can get expelled and come back and everything. But I just wanted your take on George Santos deciding he's going to run again.
He's just a crazy person with zero chance of getting elected.
So
Well, I would say he has zero chance because Trump, the grift keeps on grifting, and Santos realizes that the GOP, you can grift on them all you want to. And so he has a chance to win in the GOP election just by saying the same dumb stuff that Marjorie Taylor Greene says, or the same dumb stuff Lauren Boebert says, or Ted Cruz, or Matt Gaetz. And that's why, and I'll repeatedly say it because it's a fact, they don't have a platform. They say crazy stuff, and it creates a reaction, and their voters are voting off of their reaction, to the crazy stuff these people are saying. That's all it is. They don't care about what the policy is.
Jatovi, I think you should try to get into a Supreme Court, because in Supreme Court he doesn't have to be elected, and he will be there for the rest of his life, and he can go out and killing people and do just anything what he wants. He's immune, and he will be there for life.
That could be an idea and everything. Hey, Nick, I got a question for you because we have an economic show, and one of the things that Biden kept pointing to is the amount of money that he has actually been saving. And I'm looking forward to hearing David Walker's stance on that on Monday. But he did point out, and he did make a case for trillions of dollars that he has saved in this speech, and he definitely even showed how he had saved it. But I was just wondering your thoughts on this, because we are got $1 trillion in debt. He also went after saving Social Security, which is, I know, something you bring up all the time and everything. But I just wanted your take as one that is in that financial lane as to this notion that he made a claim and made a case to having saved trillions of dollars.
It's just not true. I mean, the real problem that we have is we have a serious economic problem that the bipartisan group needs to address because they caused it, and they won't address it. The Republicans want to lower taxes. That will not help our deficit, which is now running every 100 days. We add $1 trillion to the debt because interest rates went up. The biggest budget item is interest on the debt, which David Walker says we get nothing for it. So America's in very severe financial trouble, which he didn't want to address in the State of the Union because you're not going to get any votes. And they're not going to address it on the trail because you're not going to get any votes. But adding $1 trillion to the debt every 100 days is not good for the American economy. And we're looking at the potential collapse of the American economy at some point in time if they don't get a handle on it. Medicare is scheduled to go broke this decade. Everybody here will probably witness the breaking of the American healthcare system because you're going to live long enough to see it. Social Security is going to go broke next decade, and you're going to witness that also as well. And the American government will be helpless to do anything because they're $34 trillion in debt, with more and more debt being piled on as both parties are incredibly fiscally irresponsible. And that's my take. They're not going to address it because you can't win votes by telling people.
Nick, you know what U.S. could do? U.S. could start a war against Canada, lose that war in half an hour, just give up. Okay, we resign, we capitulate. And then Canada, because it would own U.S., they would impose their Medicare system, which is not Medicare.
You know, the thing is, Sasha, the reality is everybody listening to this is scheduled to have very, very difficult financial times in the future. And there's no way you can stop it if you don't address the problem.
Yeah, but it will be Canada's problem, not U.S.
No, I understand that. But the thing is, you know, realistically, the United States is in serious financial trouble, and they're not addressing it.
The reason it won't be addressed, Nick, is what you said, because people don't want to hear the honest answers. And there are some things that we can do that, for example, how you're talking about Social Security. We borrowed against Social Security so many times to pay for a lot of these tax cuts and all these other loans.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we can raise the cap on Social Security and that could help. But who does that affect more than anybody?
Well,
the individuals that fight against the tax cuts. Yeah. Those that fight against the tax cuts are the wealthy. And so who has the most money and the most power in our political system? The wealthy. So therefore, we don't want to fix the system we don't want to fix the system because no, I'm not going to put my money in there because I don't want to pay any extra money in taxes because, well, we got to understand that taxes have to go up. People don't want to hear that. And the wealthy, and this is where the pay the fair share thing actually is a legitimate solution, but people don't want to hear it.
It's one of many, many solutions. See, the problem is everywhere. What you need is somebody who runs Las Vegas, maybe Steve Wynn or somebody, I don't know. Somebody runs Las Vegas, corporate America, to come in and run the United States. Now, I know you're against that, Jitovi, but we can start with immigration. Immigration is a big problem, but there should be a fee charged for everybody who comes across the border. And it should be a significant fee. And turn immigration into a profit center. Okay.
Instead of doing that, instead of actually charging people to come across the border, which is already done in terms of when we talk about legal immigration and all this other stuff, there is money that goes into the government for actually going through legal immigration. But the thing is, we're fighting so much that we're not putting in the individuals to process those people to create legal immigration. Therefore, that money that you're talking about is being held up by, again, the same people that want to cut taxes, the same people that don't want to raise the cap on Social Security, the same people that don't want to solve these issues because it's easy to kick that football down the road. So again, the solution of immigration, yes, we should have it set to where, yes, if we can create pathways for citizenship, in those pathways, you do actually pay. Yes. Just as my family is legitimately going through that situation right now. You actually pay in legal immigration, and it is in the law, but we aren't giving pathways to people to get legal immigration. Therefore, that money that you're talking about can't do that, which is why when I think Biden spoke about, yes, we need to go from 6 years to 6 months, 6 months in terms of processing these payments and so on and so forth. That's part of it. But again, what the individuals behind Trump here is that, it's an invasion. Hannibal Lecter's coming across, killing my people. And that's untrue. Laken, I'm even going to mess up her name. Was it Laken Riley? Yeah, I apologize that she was, and my heart goes out to her family. But what happened to her and the illegal immigrant or the undocumented worker or individual who did that isn't the norm. And that's what we need to start pointing out, that we have to focus on the realities of the situation and ways to improve our economy. And that is through immigration, because these individuals provide us, they have boosted our economy by billions and even trillions of dollars, but we don't think about that or talk about that. And that's actually a solution to the problem that we're in. And what's even worse, I hate, and honestly, this is something that even David asks, and this is why I even told him on his show, bringing that up makes no sense. Saying, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? 4 years ago, the world was shut down. 4 years ago, we had a problem that the prior or the previous president created. And we were shut down. We did not have an economy. We did not have anything moving because COVID was there, because he created it. Inflation and all that came from there. But in terms of context, these individuals, when we do this 3 years and 4 years, want to ignore that fact. And they want to talk about only inflation. Well, if you ignore COVID, you'll ignore the fact that inflation was created because of COVID, and ignore the fact that all these things happened because of COVID. So
Jitovi, along those same lines,
it's not a big deal now. In a few months, interest rates will start going down, probably June, maybe even earlier. And all that, the economy is booming, the stock market is booming. So economy is, in fact, Biden's strongest point by far.
No, and that's what I think the point he was trying to make and everything. And even to your point, Jitovi, and everything, a lot of times we don't even think about the amount of immigrants that are doing great work, and we don't ask whether they are here legally or not legally, because I can tell you that if I go and look at a number of the construction sites here in North Carolina, there is probably a significant amount of migrant workers that are there. Just as if I went to any farm, I could see that same thing. And even if I'm being perfectly honest, if I go down to my apartment complex, the vast majority of the rental agents are actually of Latin background and everything. So they are in all kinds of jobs that are existing, and I don't sit there and ask them whether they are documented or not documented. Maybe there's some other people that might do that, but that's not something that I choose to do and everything. And I'm sure you see the same thing in California where you are and everything along those lines, Rick, and everything.
Yeah, but also who cares? And like,
exactly, that's the point.
like, I mean, and the encounters I have with people who may or may not be documented are generally good. That our kid we had, helpers with our kid, and I don't know their immigration status, but they were great people. And, our kid turned out, knock on wood, pretty, you have workers all over the place, all over California, and it's not a hellhole here. Yeah, we do have more homeless people than any other state of the union, but one reason is because it's so freaking nice here.
Yes, nice and warm. I mean, that's why we get a lot of people in North Carolina, even though we're not as nice as California in that sense. Hey, Sasha, I had a question for you on the foreign side, because one of the things that I did notice was it was the gentleman, I believe he was from Sweden, if I'm remembering correctly, and definitely there were some other folks that have joined NATO now. And of course, there has been this push to make sure that NATO members are paying their fair share, including that's one of the arguments that I think Trump makes and everything. But what is your thoughts about these two new folks joining the NATO alliance? I think it's Sweden and Finland, and also former President Trump apparently meeting with the Hungarian president, and I think that's going on today. But I just wanted your thoughts on how these other countries are playing even in the war in Ukraine.
Well, first of all, Finland and Sweden, even before they joined NATO, they were fairly strong economically and from military point of view. And the fact that they joined NATO, it's a big advantage for NATO, because first of all, they are geographically very close to Russia. Finland, in fact, Sweden doesn't, but Finland has a very long border with Russia, around probably 700 miles, if not more. And Finland has great experience fighting Russia directly, like very few countries have. Well, now it's Ukraine, unfortunately, that's going on. Russia must be stopped at Ukraine. Now, all this Biden's predecessors whining that NATO countries are not contributing much or so on, this is old story, which is no longer valid today, because many European countries are spending way much more than 2% their GDP on the military needs. And some countries are spending way much more than that. And they're all committed to hold on and Russia and help Ukraine to be at least not to lose the war. And unlike United States, who were saying that we don't want Ukraine to lose, but we don't want Russia to lose either. European countries, unlike US, they want Russia to lose this war, and they are helping Ukraine. And Ukraine army is transforming in so many different ways. If they would have this F-16s, they would hit Russia with all their might. And this F-16s in the United States and in NATO countries, they're all being replaced by F-18s and F-35. So they will go to the scrap anytime soon. It's a model 40, maybe even 50 years as it was developed. So it's not even modern fighters anymore. But you mean to keep hold on to that and not give it to Ukraine? This is really horrible, but now it's because of the Congress. The most interesting thing is that if you would put Mike Johnson, if you would put on vote help to Ukraine, it will be overwhelming yes, probably close to 80%, if not more. That's why he is holding the vote. That's his mentor, Biden's predecessor, told him, and Johnson, being a nice little puppy, does exactly that. But we'll see how long he can hold on to it.
Yeah, we'll see how long you can hold on to it and everything. That we had a guest on yesterday that talked about another issue that he alluded to, meaning President Biden. And by the way, before I get to the question for Nick and everything, but Lee Newton Rhodes, who's in the background, said that we had a moment of victory here on the network because apparently him and Toby agreed on a item, so they were concerning why they won't raise the cap on Social Security. So we had a moment where a conservative and a liberal agreed on something, and all along those lines. So hey, Nick, we had a moment of victory here where there was actually some consensus across ideological lines, for lack of a better term. But I just wanted your thoughts, because one of the things that he talked about is this notion of domestic violence, and he also talked about the need for community police officers, and he's still talking about the expunging records around marijuana and even the assault weapon ban and a number of other things, including universal background checks. And like I said, we did have the guest on yesterday that had lost in that tragedy 6 years ago, her daughter and everything. But I was just wondering your take on the proposals that he was making to do even more community policing and a number of other things that could help the things going on. And he actually pointed out, I think that he said that the murder rate had decreased here in the United States and not gone up, and all along those lines. But I was just wondering your take, since you've been a anti-Second Amendment person and definitely have been for some gun controls as well. But I just wanted your take.
Yeah. I mean, the anti-Second Amendment is because the thing is that law is so old it should be thrown out, scrapped. And there's a debate in the United States that states should be able to experiment, which they do in abortion, with certain types of laws. Well, as long as the Second Amendment is out there, we can't do it. But better is we do have roadmaps that do reduce these violent crimes that could be implemented in the schools. And they have been implemented in airports. And I'm sorry, yeah, there are more schools than airports, but the United States has more airports than any other place in the world. We have like 5,000 airports, and they're all secure. Broadway shows right now have security that is very similar to airport security. We could implement that in all of our schools. And here's the sad part: it works. But because we have a system that works and we don't have the political will to do it, we're not doing it. But if you want to secure our schools, we could do that within a month and secure all the schools.
And it doesn't have to cost that much.
It doesn't cost that much, right? Because right now a lot of the technology covers it. And not only that, the thing is, all the courtrooms in America right now have that security system. The TSA, all the airports have the security system. Broadway shows in New York have the security system. And our schools, I was there the other day. There may be a resource officer. You can't find them. There may not be. You just walk right in. Come on. So the thing is, you're not going to solve it because the Second Amendment isn't going to be repealed within a month. It just ain't going to happen. It may never be repealed in this country. You're not going to solve it. There's more guns than there are people. You can solve school shootings by implementing TSA style in your schools, and it can be done. So the only question is, do you want to do it or no? If you're not going to do it, then I don't even want to talk about the subject anymore. Because
Nico, I'm wondering why not all schools, it could be all schools, but at least some schools would have something like a parents' militia, where people, especially parents and those who are busy or so on, they can hire somebody with the concealed weapons to police a school background.
But you don't need that, Sasha. All you need is, have you ever been to an airport, Sasha? Okay.
Yeah. He just came from Aruba, so he was at an airport.
Security, Sasha, and are there guns on the other side? Have you heard about any killings on the other side of that? Have you heard about any in Canada?
Oh, you're right. I agree with you.
Okay, so you got a system that works. We have a system that known works. It works. Now you take the same system, you implement it in all the schools, and guess what? We're not going to be talking about this anymore. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be implemented in what they call the shopping malls. Watch it, because it's already in New York. When I went to, I was so shocked. Every Broadway show I went to, every concert I went to, Carnegie Hall I went to, Sasha, we went through TSA security to get in. And that's Carnegie Hall. It's not a big school. So the thing is, we have the technology, we can do it. What we don't have is the implementation because the mini minds out there can't figure this one out.
So
So like
just really
to
quick,
do all
we've
this
only
stuff.
got about 5 more minutes, and then we've got to get to the Ukraine, Russia, China show and everything. But the other items, and I kind of alluded to them that he mentioned was, and of course he has a bias because his wife is a educator, but he did talk about the need for our teachers to be paid more and to actually get some better support in the school system. He even talked about some tutoring programs and getting some of our kids actually educated at an earlier age. I think you're talking about like 3 and 4 and all along those lines. But I just wondering y'all's thoughts.
Everything we're talking about requires legislators to do stuff. The current Congress is the worst Congress in history in terms of passing legislation because they like it that way. They like the gridlock. Now, Trump goes on trial for Stormy Daniels in a little over 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets convicted, and he's up on 34 charges, so, and it's a strong case brought by competent prosecutors, so he probably won't skate on all 34 charges. So in a few months, you're going to have a candidate who's been found guilty of felonies. If this costs him 15% of his voters, then you might be able to get the presidency, the House, even possibly the Senate. The Senate's the hardest thing to get because so many Democrats' jobs in the Senate are at risk this election cycle.
But it won't even matter, Rick, because none of these people have any good ideas, and they don't bring forth any good ideas. They're clueless.
But they're also bad ideas. Just any ideas. You can't get any ideas through.
You can't get ideas across at all. I mean, there's been conversations, and that was the other thing I was going to mention because he mentioned it in his speech. But a lot of people are concerned about voting rights and gerrymandering, but also ID laws and a number of other things. So he kind of alluded to that in his speech. So definitely he's trying to appeal to certain demographics and all along those lines. And by the way, I did hear that one of Trump's former press secretaries, that being Kellyanne Conway, her husband, was on the media stump and was basically saying that basically called Trump a psycho and said that he would have a hard time winning people because of some of the candidates that he is picking to be at his forefront of the party and everything, whether that's the Kerry Lake or whether that's the gentleman here in North Carolina and a number of other things that are going on in that space. So he was definitely not feeling that they were going to win back anything other than their base.
You mean Robinson, who's the Republican candidate for governor, who thinks some people are lizards, alien invaders in disguise. Just like crazy people.
Yeah, he said that. He said that the Holocaust didn't. He said that he is somewhat of a Holocaust denier, and all along those lines, he's definitely said some things about the trans community and a number of other communities. Last thing,
he doesn't think we landed. He thought the moon landing was fake.
Yeah, he said some very interesting things. So, like I said, we'll find out how this all plays out in North Carolina. Because my concern is, if there is a coattail, how big is the coattail? Because we do know the coattails have swept in some very interesting candidates, even under the Reagan coattails. So if it is enough crazy people to decide to vote, then those coattails could be big. But I think that there's less crazy people in the United States than people are projecting. But hey, I've been wrong before because I didn't think Trump was going to win the first time.
In actual science, you have what they call adverse selection, which means that people that are sick want life insurance, and after a while, you can get a pool of sickies who are dying, and they're the only people that want life insurance. Everybody else doesn't want it. Well, we have adverse selection in politics as well. All the crazy people are attracted to politics. All smart people who have good ideas, they don't want anything to do with politics. So we have in Washington, D.C., a group, just all I could think of is a group of adverse selected people that normally all the good people out there that have good ideas aren't going into politics.
Well, speaking of good ideas, there was this great idea. Hey, speaking of great ideas, there's this great idea that was put into effect many years ago, and I think it's going to be back in effect very shortly and everything. But, I think it was Ben Franklin that came up with this great idea of daylight savings time, but there are folks that are wanting to repeal that as well. So I just wanted your thoughts around daylight savings time, since we are going to go into that whole, the clock going one way or the other, whether it's spring or fall. And there are definitely some folks that are going like, this hurts our
people who sleep late like me, because I'm going back to bed after this because it's only going to be what 8 a.m. in California. People who sleep late love daylight savings time. My wife wakes up at 5 a.m. She hates daylight savings time. She wants, she hates waking up in the dark, driving to work in the dark. So, I mean, there's still kind of a need to shift your hours to capture the most daylight.
I have a great idea. Rather than daylight savings time, what you do is you just set the clock back a half an hour and never change it. So what happens, there's never a daylight savings time. You just cut the baby in half and move on. So you don't have this weird effect that you get twice a year in terms of your body not being able to adapt to this crazy time zone changes. So I think something like that could be a good compromise. With that, we're out of time. And of course, our people back there, engineers, say we have to end on time. So I'm going to take us off, and we'll see you next week on World Edition.